Good morning, everybody. Mac here, and welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons. What we have in front of us today is the Power Rangers Lightning Collection Mighty Morphin King Sphinx. And while, yes, I know, technically, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was not a cartoon, at least where I live, it was mixed in with the Saturday Morning Cartoon rotation. So, we're doing this right now. Also, this is pretty much the only thing I own for the Power Rangers. I was never a big fan of Power Rangers, and I've never collected Power Rangers. However, I got King Sphinx for two reasons. One, this is just an awesome looking figure. He's big, he's bulky, he's a monster, literally. And I thought he looked really good. And two, he was on sale for $11 for Prime Days. So I got all of this for $11. On the front of the box, with this being my first Power Rangers figure, I'm assuming this is the standard for the Power Rangers. We have a big window so you can see King Sphinx on the inside. We have some of his accessories down here. I'm assuming the rest of them are hidden behind this big cartoon comic book portrait of King Sphinx on the side. The image wraps around. On back, we have a great production photo of the figure in a pose. Over here, we have that piece of art again with the lightning bolt here. Up top, nothing. And on the bottom, barcode and legalese. So, simple box. Your eye is going right to the figure. So let's get this box open and let's get the figure out of the box. And we will take a look at Lightning Collection King Sphinx. Here he is, friends, King Sphinx out of the box, and the first thing I can tell you definitely about King Sphinx is that he is a big, beefy boy. So the first thing we will do is we'll put the tape measure to him, and we'll see that how he measures up. And remember, this is for the Power Rangers Lightning line, which is supposed to be a 6-inch scale figure, and if the Power Rangers scale anything like the classified series that I collect, or some of the Marvel Legends that I have, then that means that the Power Rangers probably come in at about 6¼ to 6½ inches tall. So let's see where King Sphinx lands. And putting the tape measure to him, we can see that he is 7½ inches to the top of his headdress, to the top of the cobra up front. So he will stand considerably taller than the rest of the Power Rangers. There's no doubt about that. I don't have Goldar, so I don't know how big Goldar is, but I'd be interested to know how he measures up to Goldar. Now, we're going to take a look at the articulation, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the head. And take a look at this headdress. Because of the size of this headdress, he really can't do a full 360 spin. I mean, he probably could, but I don't want to bend all of this rubber, and I don't want to chance breaking anything, so I'm not going to force that. Also, because of the headdress, he really can't look up very much. He can look down, he can bury the chin, but he really can't look up. Also, arm articulation is hindered by these big shoulder pads, because I was really hoping that it was going to be like a lot of the Star Wars figures, that either this was tucked into the shoulder joint and it would move with the shoulder joint and this part was loose, or it was only glued right here and this part would come up. And it kind of does, but because it's a double stacked armor, as you can see, it doesn't really give much. So the arms don't really come up that well. And once they do, you can see it, they kind of want to go back down. They do a full 360 spin, and they have a butterfly joint. They have double jointed elbows that, for the size of the figure that King Sphinx is, that's really good articulation on that. Wrist spin, wrist pivot in and out. He has a torso twist, nothing here at the waist. Up here at the torso, though, he has a ball joint in there. He can do some hula hooping, but he also has, you can see it more in back where this joint is. He also has an ab crunch, you can see right there, if you pull the skirt down, that helps with his articulation. So he can go way back and he can go way forward. He has, get out of there, he has a thigh swivel. The legs can come up to there. It's not great, but it's not horrible. Like I said, he has the thigh swivel. He has double jointed knees, which once again, for the size of the figure that he is, that's some great travel right there. Now, he doesn't have the traditional boot cut right there, cut off at the calf, but what he has is right here. You can see that there is a second swivel right there just above the ankle. And then you have the forward-facing pin for some ankle rock. And the ankle goes way far back and way far, well, not way far, but pretty far forward. So he has great articulation in some areas, and in others, not so great. Like the shoulders are kind of disappointing. He can't really get the shoulders out very far. The head can turn. There's really nothing there either. The head can turn, but really, do you need a full 360 spin for the head most of the time? Probably not. Now, on the tail back here, he does have some minor tail articulation. You can lift the tail up. You can sort of spin it around, but it's just a very shallow ball joint back here. So if you get too aggressive with it, you see it's going to pop out. So you can just get back in there. You can just pop that back in. So you can move the tail up and down a little bit side to side, but there's really not a whole lot more to do with that. Now, the paint app on him, that's just beautiful. Now, let's get it out of the way. Right here, you can see that there's some paint rub on his on my headdress right there, and some right there. But I'm just going to put that to King Sphinx is old. Some stuff has happened. He's seen some stuff. He's taken some battle damage. But that's not what I want to look at. Look at the eyes. Look at the shading that they put on the snout of his face. That is great. That is fantastic. The only thing that could make this better is if they would have filled the mouth in black so that his teeth would have shown through more predominantly. Because right now, how everything is just a solid gray, you kind of lose the teeth. That if they would have painted the inside of his mouth black, I think that would have really made the teeth stand out, and that would have just really completed this sinister look that he has going on in his face. I think this face sculpt is fantastic. You see he has some ridges there. I just think that's great. Moving down, you can see the paint job they did with the Eye of Horus on his chest. He has some hieroglyphics across his pecs right there. You can see that there's even some hieroglyphics molded into his shoulder plates. So even though they interfere with his articulation, I think they look fantastic. You come down here. He has the Ankh on his skirt. Let me see if I can focus in a little bit better on that. He has the Ankh on his skirt with some more hieroglyphics. And this is very, very loose, so it doesn't get interfere. Oh, I forgot to show you. He can go all the way up forward and a little bit back. Forgot about that. Something else that I like is you can see it right here in his arms and right there on his thigh that they did some shading to him. This teal, like seafoam green turquoise shading. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it has some significance to the show, but I really like it. Something that breaks up all of that gray, all of that stone gray. Then he has the yellow knee pads, and he has some really great sculpt on his feet as well. Once again, it would have been cool if they would have painted the nails, the talons on his toes a different color, as well as the talons on his fingers, because the hand sculpts for his hands are really good too. That if maybe they would have painted the nails, the talons, a white color, sort of like how you have the Eye of Horus, and painted the inside of the mouth black, I think that would have just been perfect and would have really made the whole thing pop. But don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. As is, King Sphinx looks fantastic. Now, he does have a bunch of, well, not a bunch, but he has some accessories. Obviously, the first thing we're going to look at is he has his wings here. And these wings also look great. I like how it has this wash, that instead of just a stone gray like the rest of him, they put a light wash over top of the wings to make the feathers pop and give it some texture, some dimension, some depth, and that looks really good. It has these shallow pegs has these short pegs right here that peg into these shallow holes on his back, and they just pop in there. And it's real easy to get them in. And if you thought King Sphinx was big before, those wings just complete his look. Look at that. That is fantastic. He looks great with these things. He looks so sinister. He looks so sinister. I love it. This is why I wanted him. Like, he's just a monster that you're going to be able to put in pretty much any line, not just your Power Rangers line. Now, he has some more hands, too. he comes with another set of hands. He has one balled up fist, and he has one open gripping hand, and this is for his staff, which we'll take a look at in a second. And these hands, for the size of them, are very soft, and they pop off very easily. And then the new ones just pop in there just as easy. You see that right there? And one thing I like about this is a staff gripping hand, that it's hinged as well, but it hinges up and down, which is good. Anytime they're holding something, the holding hand should always hinge up and down, especially if it's a weapon. Now the hands you pop off are like these sinister, clawed, I'm evil, scheming hands. Now for his weapon, he has this staff, which, considering it's Power Rangers, and he's Egyptian, and he has this big staff, I'm guessing that this staff is magical in some way, because you also have this energy effect that you can put on the staff. And you just thread that through there. And it just sits fairly loosely on top of it. And it's a decent enough effect. And his grip, you slide the staff in from the top, because his gripping hand, it does hold it fairly tight. The only problem is, especially with the energy effect on it, sometimes it's a little too heavy for his wrist, and his wrist will dip. As far as standing goes, you can see he's a thick figure. He's a heavy figure. He's a brick of a figure. That his standing is not an issue. He has big feet. He's very solid in his stance. And when I was playing around with him, I never had a problem with him being balanced improperly. I never had a problem with him wanting to fall over. He is a very thick-trunked figure, very well-weighted figure, very well-balanced figure. And as I said before, I don't have any Power Rangers from the line, but here I have Snake Eyes from the G.I. Joe Classified series, who comes in at 6 1/4 inches, and I have Loki from the Marvel Legends line. Loki is a little bit on the taller side. He comes in at roughly, I think, 6 3/4 inches, so you can see how King Sphinx matches up against those. Against a 6-inch figure, he's going to tower. Against somebody that's closer to 7 inches, he's still a bit of a beast, especially in that trunk. We have him with some 7-inch scale figures from McFarlane Toys. We have Geralt of Rivia, which is at 7 inches, and we have Shao Kahn from the Mortal Kombat 11 line, who is taller than the standard 7 inches. And impressively enough, Shao Kahn is still a little bit bigger than King Sphinx, but if you look at this, King Sphinx could hang with your Mortal Kombat crew. And finally, here he is, just for kicks, with some of the Lanyard 7-inch figures, with the Lanyard Predator and the Lanyard Alien Xenomorph. You can see even the Predator that was taller than 7 inches, he's still even bigger than the Predator and the Alien. So really the only thing that topped King Sphinx in what we took a look at is Shao Kahn. So that is our look at the Power Rangers Lightning Collection King Sphinx. He's a big figure. And even though I don't collect Power Rangers, I'm really glad I got this guy, because he's going to fit in with so much that I do have, just because of him being this big, burly, heavy brick of a figure. He's a monster. He can fit in with Mortal Kombat. He'll be able to fit in as a enemy for The Witcher. He'll be able to fit in with a dungeon crawl team that I'm putting together from figures. Like, he's just going to play so many different roles in displays for this. I think the paint apps on him are really good, other than some of those areas that it was starting to rub off, but even that doesn't bother me so much, because the whole figure in general just looks great. Articulation, only complaint I have is with the shoulders, those big shoulder pads that don't really give any amount of upward arm movement. That's a little disappointing, but you can get around that as well. I think the energy effect, for what it is, it's decent. It could have been a little bit better, but for, like I said, I bought this for $11. I think it normally goes for something like $40, I think. But for $11, I'm not going to complain about that energy effect. So I think he's really good. I think he measures up to some of the other figures very well, and I think I'm just going to have a lot of fun with this guy. So that's what we have for King Sphinx. Also, I just wish the inner side of the mouth would have been painted black. I think that would have really, really set off that sinister-looking face, because it would have made his fangs just stand out that much more. So that's what we have. I hope you enjoyed that. I thank you for joining me this morning. So until next time, my friends, play well, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, thank you for watching.